Water was falling from the sky. I will repeat that. Water falling from the sky? My diplomatic attachment to Earth was supposed to be a standard observational tour. The Korath Embassy promised a primitive but safe world. They lied. They lied. I stood inside the reinforced glass walls of the Regional Meteorological Observatory. Sigrid Vane, a human designated as a weather reporter, tapped cheerfully on a console. She seemed completely unbothered. Then, my wrist scanner vibrated against my dermal patches. A low-frequency hum. Something massive was building in the upper atmosphere. Why was the human smiling? What happened next made me draft my first emergency evacuation request. You will want to stay close, because the scanner data only gets worse. The warning flashed across my primary screen. Atmospheric ionization detected, unknown buildup. I tapped the display, assuming a localized equipment failure. We were under a dense layer of grey vapor. Sigrid, I said, attempting to keep my vocal tones level. My instruments indicate a severe electrical anomaly forming directly above our coordinates. She glanced out the window, sipping a steaming black fluid. Oh, yeah. Look at those cumulonimbus clouds. It's going to be a fun afternoon. Fun. She used the word for recreational enjoyment. My auditory membranes twitched. The scanner vibrated again, harder this time. The ionization levels were climbing at a rate that suggested an orbital strike. But there were no ships in orbit. What was generating this charge? Crack. A jagged fracture of pure plasma tore through the sky. It connected the clouds to the ground in a blinding white flash. My scanner screamed its highest priority alert. Electrical discharge 30,000 Kelvin, humans outdoors, recommend immediate shelter. 30,000 Kelvin, 5 times the surface temperature of our home star. Right outside the window, I dropped my datapad. Sigrid, the atmosphere just ignited. We need to reach a subterranean bunker immediately. Before she could answer, the shockwave hit. Boom! The entire observatory rattled. My auditory membranes slammed shut automatically, sealing my ears against the pressure wave. It was an atmospheric detonation of impossible scale. The building vibrated. My hollow bones ached from the acoustic impact. Wow, that was a close one, Sigrid said. She took another sip of her beverage. Good acoustics in here. A close one. I stepped back from the reinforced glass. That was a targeted plasma strike. Is the atmospheric bombardment stopping soon? Sigrid laughed. The sound was bizarrely comforting despite the chaos. They're saying it's just a light drizzle right now. The storm is barely starting. Barely starting. I opened a secure channel to the Korath Embassy. My fingers shook over the comm link. I submitted an urgent Category 4 planetary threat file regarding the recurring atmospheric detonations. The response chimed back almost instantly. Acknowledged weather normal for region. Continue observation. Bureaucratic insanity. I was witnessing a world casually venting star-level heat, and command called it normal. I need to test the atmospheric density, I stated, pulling an Earth rain shield device, an umbrella, from the rack. I cracked the side door open. A gust of wind immediately inverted the structural canopy, snapping its metal ribs. I stepped back inside, drenched. Sigrid, your atmospheric weapon systems have destroyed my secondary shielding. That's just a cheap umbrella, she smiled. The ionization didn't dissipate. It multiplied. The sky turned an unnatural bruised purple, heavy with suspended water and raw kinetic energy. Flash. 1 second passed. My internal suit diagnostics flashed a brilliant red. The acoustic shockwave hit us from 3 distinct directions at once. My auditory membranes sealed completely tight, a biological fail-safe that left me in total internal silence. I could still feel the building shake. My boots vibrated violently against the floor plating. The sheer physical pressure of the sound was crushing. I stared at the primary scanner. It was actively struggling to process the sheer volume of overlapping kinetic impacts. Sigrid, I said, my voice vibrating in my own sealed skull. The structural integrity of this installation will not survive sustained orbital bombardment. We must relocate to the lower levels. She simply rotated her padded chair. She pointed at a complex radar display on her monitor. Swaths of green, yellow, and red painted the screen. That's just the squall line, she said, her voice easily piercing my biological seals. It's passing right over us. Passing over us. The scanner beeped a critical warning. The device projected a localized atmospheric model. I analyzed the data stream, waiting for the energy weapon signature to isolate itself. Nothing. There was no ship, there was no bombardment. The data crystallized into a terrifying truth. The 30,000 Kelvin plasma discharges were superheating the local oxygen and nitrogen. The air was expanding violently, tearing the atmosphere apart and slamming back together. The acoustic devastation was merely a chemical byproduct of rapid thermal expansion. The planet was doing this to itself, on purpose. My suit's emergency artificial intelligence triggered. Evacuation protocol recommended. Multiple threat vectors detected. I tapped the vocal interface. Evacuation from what? The artificial intelligence processed the ambient environmental data. Everything. I stared at the console in horror. This was their baseline weather. They built observation towers just to watch their atmosphere tear itself into superheated plasma. The earlier buildup I detected wasn't an anomaly. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I braced my hands against the reinforced glass, waiting for the structure to inevitably shatter. My respiration rate was dangerously high. My copper-brown scales felt cold, an involuntary thermal reaction to extreme stress. Sigrid stood up. She walked over, still casually holding her ceramic mug. She didn't look at the raging plasma outside. She looked at me. She reached out, gently tapping the thick glass. The vibration echoed against my sealed ears. It's just noise, Destiny. Just noise. She wasn't mocking my biological response. She genuinely believed the sonic boom created by star-hot lightning was completely harmless. The sheer terrifying comfort of a native species existing in a death trap. I let out a long breath. My auditory membrane slowly unsealed. The atmospheric detonations eventually faded to low, distant rumbles. The smell of scorched ozone lingered in the ventilation system. I filed my final report of the cycle. I had to permanently reclassify the kinetic threat. The acoustic devastation I originally assumed was an orbital strike was just thunder. It was background noise they sleep through. Humans literally close their eyes and rest while the sky detonates above their shelters. I looked out at the damp concrete. It stopped raining. The human smiled. I have not yet decided if I find Earth's atmosphere or its residents more alarming.